Researchers from the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology and Humboldt University took a nearly 300 million year old fossil and created a robot to mimic its ancient movements. Experts believe that the Orabates pabsti, we're gonna call them Oripaps, Orabates pabsti first emerged about 350 million years ago, but it wasn't until the year 2000 that this particular fossil was dug up in a German quarry. It's believed that the nearly 3-foot-long creature evolved into modern birds, mammals, and reptiles. Researchers wanted to know how the ancient animal moved, so the team worked with records of ancient footprints and added motors as well as 3D printed and steel parts to the fossils to create the OroBOT. So that's the new name, not like Pabst or Orabates. Of course, they didn't use the real fossils, but replicas modeled after each bone. Working off of movements inspired by a caiman, skink, iguana, and salamander, the researchers tested multiple gaits that could match the footprints using 4 metrics: energy spend, ground reaction forces, matching the footprints, and balance. Because of the OroBOT, researchers now believe that this animal that once walked on Pangea used a more sophisticated gait. The work is part of an effort to gain a better understanding of extinct animals using evidence-based reconstructions. I mean, this could also be the first step for a real-life Jurassic Park, but only for like the online theorists who believe that the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park were always animatronic, and that Doctors Grant, Sattler, and Malcolm were only brought in to see if they could be fooled. I mean, just like a theory. I don't believe it. This year, 5 trillion plastic bags will be consumed. That works out to about 160,000 every second and more than 700 a year for every person. Of the 5 trillion, less than 1% are actually going to be recycled. Well, now researchers from Purdue University and the University of Technology, or UTech in Mexico, have found a new way to upcycle plastic bags into carbon chips that could be used as anodes for lithium-ion batteries. The batteries are actually comparable to commercially available batteries. I mean, in one example, they actually use the batteries to power a toy truck. Researchers have tried to turn polyethylene into pure carbon in the past, but those processes were inefficient and expensive. The team first immersed the bags in sulfuric acid and then sealed them inside a solvothermal reactor that heated them below polyethylene's melting temp. After a few additional processes in the furnace, they were able to produce pure carbon, which they ground into a black powder, which was then used to make the anodes for the batteries. According to the researchers, the quote, solvothermal upcycling approach totally gets rid of plastic waste, converting them into functional carbonaceous materials for multiple applications, including battery anodes. The research has been published in ACS Omega. No word on how many bags it takes to make a battery, but really, any dent would make a positive impact on the globe. Unless you're like a science denier, and then why are you here? Rec Watches was founded by Christian Mig and Jonathan Kamstra, watchmakers who wanted to make high-end watches using salvaged parts from iconic vehicles, like a rare 1966 Raven Black Mustang, or more recently, an old Spitfire aircraft. Now, I always find the watches and the stories behind them to be both interesting and elegant in their rarity. However, their latest work hit an entirely new nerve altogether. Bad boys. Bad boys! What you go? What you go? Kenneth Thorsen, much like myself, was a young Danish teenager in 1995 when the action classic starring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence came out. It was then that Thorsen determined that he would one day own a Porsche 911, like the one Silver Spoon Mike Lowry drove in the movie. Mike Lowry.
It's Mike Lowry.
Mike Lowry.
Mike Lowry.
Mike Lowry.
Mike Lowry.
In 2003, Thorsen could finally afford a 1976 Porsche 911. But, to say it was a project car would be an understatement. Working with his retired father, a mechanic, handy, Thorsen spent 6 months creating a stunning replica. During the restoration, the father and son team swapped out the original hood, which the team at Rec used to create the 901-01 watch. The watch's dial is cut right from the hood, the caseback inspired by the rims, and the rotor was designed to look like the drilled brake discs. And for only $1,700, you could pick up one of the last 9 remaining. Bad boys for life. Not like on a cop's salary, or an editor's salary for that matter. I'm David Manti. This is Engineering by Design. Mike Lowry.
Mike Lowry.
Bad boys! What you go? What you go? What you go?